Hey, welcome to Questions and Actor Laurent Pitre. I'm your host, as you know, Laurent Pitre. And today I'm here with a phenomenal, terrifying, terrific, fantastic. Who are you again?
Jeremy Holm, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, Jeremy. So, when people ask you that question, who are you? What's like the first few answers that come to your head? But also, maybe what's like the most profound answer that you wish you could give? Or maybe the thing that you give to like only like your best friends or like the people who really know you? Like, who are you?
Wow, that's a pretty deep question for this early in the day. Well, if it's someone that I'm just meeting
Yeah.
and they're like, "Hey, I know you," I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you probably have seen me on some TV show getting killed or killing someone." And then, and sometimes people know me. I used to do this show called "What Would You Do," which is on ABC. It's actually still on. They might know me from that. But people that really know, or they might have seen Mr. Robot or House of Cards or something like that.
Yes.
But people who really know me, they know I'm a dad. They know I'm a husband. They know that I'm, fun to hang out with. If they need a hand, hopefully they know they can call me and ask me. So, I'm a beekeeper, so I live up here in Vermont and I keep bees. And, most of my life is spent cooking food for my kids or, making sure their homework's done. So I'm a dad. That's my big job right now. So I'm a dad.
I love that. That's so cool. I love that. That's such a good answer. And I think it's like, gonna be so cool for people to hear that from you, especially with this long spanning career of playing, like you said, either people killing or being killed. That you live this peaceful, beautiful beekeeping life, cooking for your family, and being a dad and a husband first and foremost. That sounds so beautiful. And just for those who aren't even who are only listening to this podcast, I want to highlight that there's a giant wooden fish behind him that says paint your own. Tell us a bit about what this giant fish
Okay,
is.
so I'm going to go off camera for just a second because I have something else to show
Please.
you.
Oh, okay.
So this fish
Yes.
was painted by a guy in Vermont who carves birds and animals and other things. He was going to go out of business because his wife died of cancer, and his wife helped him run this business. And but he decided to keep it going, and he was having a big sale. And at the sale, this wasn't, this was a sign for other. It says paint your own. This was a sign for other, um, for other things. And so we said, well, can we buy that? And he's like, have it. His name's Norton Gallery, and he still sells stuff. He sells these, and he gives all the money to a cancer charity in Burlington, Vermont. Norton
Wow.
Gallery. He's a great guy, and he makes the most beautiful carvings of and sculptures of dinosaurs, of cats, of birds. He does beautiful birds, and so my wife has a chocolate business, and she did a thing called Tour de Farms, where there's a big bike race, and there's stops along the way, and all the local, there's cheese and there's milk and there's all kinds of stuff, honey, and you could go by Norton's Gallery and look at the gallery and then buy some chocolate for my wife. So that's how we met him, and that's why that's on the wall. We still have to paint it. We haven't painted it yet. We're waiting.
I love that it hasn't been painted more than that little white sort of thing, and then it says paint your own $100. I'm wondering almost maybe why do you think you haven't painted it? And if so, if you feel like you know the reason, tell us a little bit about that because I'm so curious as to why leave it like as is.
Okay, so my wife is a sculptor and a stage manager, and she owns a chocolate shop, and her genes are in our kids. So, like, one of my kids, Ellis, is a felter, and she makes little felted, you know, animals. She also
Showing them.
crochets. She sculpts things. My other daughter, Sagan, is an artist, and she's always, has. They both have like six projects. My job is to like Okay, we need to see the floor. Let's maybe pick up some fat. My daughter last night took apart one of my shirts and made a dress for her dance tonight. So the fact that this isn't painted is because there's so much other creativity happening in this house. There's just not time. The answer is children. That's why it's not painted. I'm serious, man. I mean,
Interesting. Well, I almost might reflect something of an observation, but I think the beauty I've discovered on creativity is sometimes it's not, and maybe tell me about this is going to maybe segue us into talking about acting, but I think there's a beauty to leaving things feeling not completely done, or giving all that you can, and it's not perfect, but it's beautiful because it tells the story it needs to. And I think, keeping the fish the way it is with the paint your own and the $100, it reminds you not only of a story of someone, you know, giving you something out of the generosity of their own heart, but it also reminds me, or possibly you too, to a certain extent, like your children are your greatest probable creations, right? Like that's like a true expression of creativity that probably surpasses even your greatest quote unquote roles that you've played as an actor, right?
yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And
Mm,
um, the other thing is, very few people die having finished their lives with a nice bow and tie, right? It's very rare to have that happen. That's also how we live our lives. Like there are chapters that end and chapters that begin, but it is a work in progress, just as any, movies are done. When that movie gets sent out and it's locked and someone buys it and distributes it, it's done. Except for that, it has a relationship to history that changes, decades later, right? So it's actually not done. There are very few art forms there aren't any art forms that are actually in stasis because time changes them. So
mm,
you're right about what you said. The other thing that you made me think of is that with anything, but art especially, great is the enemy of finishing, and good is the enemy of great. And both things are true. So it's very hard. You're very lucky if you make something great because you have to in film or theater because you have to overcome so many unknowns. Did you cast the right people? Is it something that's on trend enough to become popular? Is that first AD really as efficient and as kind and as giving as they seemed to be? Did you have a lightning storm on day 20 when you're supposed to be outside on top of the mountain, right? All these things. Is the editor doing the best with the material? Does the music catch the zeitgeist of the film? When it's released, is there some political event that supersedes, like, Block Island Sound was supposed to come out and have a big splash right when COVID started. That didn't
mm,
happen the way that the McManus brothers thought it would. So
mm.
there are all these things that you're not in control of. All you can do is your best work and be satisfied with that. That's all you can do as an actor.
So beautiful. I am so happy we're having a conversation. This is exactly the type of conversation I love. So let's go. You're talking about beginnings and ends. Let's go right to the beginning. Let's go to the day little
Hmm.
Jeremy Holm is born. Where are you born? Where are you raised? What are the first influences that end up, you know, maybe shaping the person you end up becoming today?
I have a crazy answer to this question
I love it.
because I've been asked a question like it before. I was born in Colorado. I was raised in the mountains of Colorado, and mostly by my mom because I live with my mom. And we lived. There were no other houses anywhere near us. So outside at night, it was pitch black. And my mom made these beautiful silk curtains that she painted aspen leaves on. And at nighttime, the windows became mirrors. And so, and my mom was a little sad. And so my job, I thought in life, was to like make her laugh and cheer her up.
Hmm.
So I would come out, I would wear her high heels and a wig and my robe, and I would do some crazy, thing to make her laugh. And I think that's where this whole acting thing all began. I think that's and I'm so excited about this. They're gonna remake the Rockford Files. It's been happening for a while. There've been two versions, but there's one now that apparently is getting cast, and God, it's my dream to get to be on that.
Oh,
But I used to watch the Rockford Files, Star Trek, Little House on the Prairie. So we're talking
oh,
about James Garner, William Shatner, and Michael Landon. I watch those dudes, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to be in those kinds of stories. And now I just kill people and get killed.
yeah, it's so funny. Like it's such a wholesome, like Little House on the Prairie, especially very wholesome, beautiful stories. You started your journey out by like sort of entertaining to uplift and to make people laugh. So that's really really interesting. That then what you end up doing is a little more in the drama category. But I'd love to still end up talking about your beginnings as an actor. When did you become conscious that, oh, this is like a thing I like? Like, tell us about that initial like bug that the actors kind of talk about, that moment where you're bit and you're like Spider-Man going, oh my gosh. Da, 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 like one of those moments. Like, what was that moment for you?
It was early. I
Okay.
did a play in kindergarten where I played the giant, Jack and the bad guy, the giant, Jack and the Giant Beanstalk.
Nice.
And I remember my mom saying, "No, it's okay. He can borrow them." I got to borrow my big brother's. We called them clodhoppers. They had a cloverleaf tread and they were leather and they had red laces. And I got to wear his huge, boots on my feet and do this play, which was probably like 10 minutes long or something. And that's when I knew. I'm like, yeah, this is five faux fum. I hear the blood of an Englishman. I can do this.
Wow.
And it started there. I was in the drama club. I sang in the choir. I did musicals in junior
Wow.
high. At high school, I founded the Thespian Society, and
No
we
way.
were at a new high school. We broke off from Columbine High School in
Wow.
Colorado, and we were called Chatfield, and we had a great theater, and we did musicals, and then I went to Colorado State, and I majored in theater, and I moved to London, and I was trying to get into RADA and Lambda and all those Rose Bruford and all those schools. I didn't get into. I made it. I always made it to the final, 10 people, but then I was a Yank,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't let me in. Came back, went to grad school in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, at the professional theater training program. I was just going to do theater. I hadn't even thought about,
Yeah.
by the time I fell in love with theater, I wasn't thinking I would do a lot of film and TV. I was just, doing what was in front of me, which is theater. And then
Right.
I moved to New York. I got an agent. I did a lot of regional theater. And then when I had kids, I couldn't afford to do theater. So that's when I started looking into doing film and TV. And I wasn't very good at it at first. It's a whole different thing. I did a couple soap operas. And when I saw them, I was horrified. And it takes a while to learn the amplitude shift between theater and film
Hmm.
and TV. And, the technique's all the same, but the way you live through it is much different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me maybe what was like those learning experiences that you had where you were shifting from theater to film. Like what would you say is that amplitude shift that made the biggest difference for you?
Um, it's hard to put into words that the line to your energy has to be as open, right? You're not just shutting the energy off. It has to remain open, but you're kind of just letting it be there. You're not actively doing anything.
Mm,
Um, I guess you could say the amplitude is maybe lower, but that you're in danger of limiting what happens. Um, and also, it's about concentration. I find that when I'm doing theater, um, it takes over in a different way because you're doing it for the 3 hours or however long the play is. When you're doing film and TV, you're constantly interrupted, right? You do it. Okay, we're
Mm-hmm.
stopping. We're doing another take, and so your ability to concentrate and stay in that piece of it, knowing what was before and what comes after, without judging it or commenting on it, it takes concentration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it sounds like kind of like in theater, you kind of have to activate that thing that's already there because as you said, it's like a state of being when you're on camera, allowing to be seen. And I guess like for theater, then it's kind of projecting it out. Like that's why they a lot of theater directors are like project your voice, project the thing. I think it's like to a certain degree, like you said, it's not less in terms of camera acting. It's just knowing it's already there, and because of the camera's closeness you don't have to do as much. But I also, even I felt, I've learned that it also depends on the framing. Like for example, if you're in a super wide shot, you're doing the same thing as theater.
Yeah,
Your audience member's far away. You have to like think about, well, I can't just like stand here and like have it all happen in my eyes. I should use the space. I should make a choice that allows me to go through the frame and be a part of this painting, as opposed to just like I'm so grounded in the being that nothing's really happening for the audience there, you know?
yeah. I mean, you have to know what's being painted and how to tell that part of the story. Usually if in a wide shot, you're establishing what building the character's going into, or what car they're getting into, or who's in the big office, whatever that is. And so it's a gestural situation. But by the end of the scene, it's just what are you thinking about? So, and that's it takes something to learn what to do and how to, because as you know, once you're on set, it ain't like it was in your hotel room. you know,
Yes,
you're
yeah,
not nearly as
absolutely.
good on set as you were in your hotel room the night before.
No, not at all. But let's hit rewind a bit too, because I wanted to like sort of magnify and understand what your training was in Colorado, and like as you were also growing like in high school and founding the thespian club. So like, what were like the first initial lessons that you were learning through the stage that even still to the today that you cherish and hold those moments as like, wow, those are like pivotal moments of my career. And let's focus first, I think, on the stage, how you began, and I'd love to know more about that.
Well, I love to sing. My mom was a singer, a really good singer, and so I took a lot of choir, and I was in the Columbine Concert Choir, which is a really good, like you had to sight read and you had to be good. And I wasn't on that level, but I was almost on that level, and I really loved it. I loved the sounds, um, and so I think that work ethic and that sense of performance. And I like to sing. I'm not a professional singer or anything. I've done a few professional musicals. Um, so that's. I'm sorry. I don't know why that's dinging up. I'm not a technology guy. In fact, Laurent, can I go grab my battery? I'm just seeing that my battery's
Yeah, no
almost dead.
problem.
I'm so sorry. It'd be like 10 seconds.
All good, man. We can
I'm,
edit
I
this.
apologize. How embarrassing.
Not at all, man. This ain't live.
Can
Even
you
if it
edit it
were,
out, or do we get to see
oh
this?
yeah. We
Oh,
can
okay,
keep it
cool.
in. It's you, but like no, we can edit this out. Don't worry.
I can't believe I did that.
It's totally
I
fine.
just I just saw the warning come up. You're about to lose power. Come on, what a dummy.
All good, brother.
Okay, but so there we go. So I was doing the choir thing, and then I did a play called Kids for America in like it's been seventh grade, and I was like, oh, that's even better because then there's talking and it's a
Mm,
story. And then I did Bye Bye Birdie in high school, and by then I loved backstage. I loved building the sets. I loved the curtains. I love the fly space, like all that stuff really appealed to the mechanical part of me, the part that likes, that sort of thing. And so I ended up going to Colorado State, and I got a scholarship to work backstage. It was a
Oh.
creative and performing arts scholarship, but my part of it was to work and build sets. And then I got cast in almost every single play they did for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and I got to really enjoy it. And the sort of pinnacle of that was I did a play called Orphans by Lyle Kessler, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Treat Williams was in it on Broadway. I could be wrong about that, but one night and it was at the end of the run when the lights went down. It's the two brothers with the dying father figure at the center stage, and I played the older brother who was kind of a bad guy. But he starts weeping, and he's sad that his father figure has died. And as the lights went down, I heard this, and it was the entire audience standing up. Like we got a standing O before the lights were out, and there was cheering, and it was crazy. And I was like, okay. At that moment, it was over. I was in it forever.
Yeah.
And that's when I sort of committed to going. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go to grad school and do all these things. And
Mm.
um, that grad school then led me to more seriously study Shakespeare and the classics, and taught me a whole acting technique, which they're all cults, but they're all useful, and I have a lot to say about that. But um, and then I moved to New York, and that's where we are now.
Yeah, but first you went to London. Tell me about that experience, because I think what's also interesting, and I think important in a lot of artists' journey, is to experience those first important rejections, you know, because it teaches you the value of it and the actual true nature of it. So I'm wondering how that felt like to go to, I'm sure you were studying, right? Like the bod, you were like, to be an actor on stage, the best place to go. And anybody who know, like they know, go to England, go to London, right? So tell me about what it was that you learned there, and the process of what that was like, and also maybe, like you said, that kind of feeling that you were like, it's an American, and it was tough to fit in where you didn't fit necessarily. And tell me about what you learned from that.
Yeah, well, I haven't thought about this in a long time. It's fun to go back, but I was doing plays like Blood Wedding by Garcia Lorca, and Amadeus, and all these like pretty heady plays. And I realized, I need training, and so the best was England. They have the best training. They still do. They have the best theatrical training in the world. So I moved over there. I had a backpack and
Wow.
like $1,000. I didn't know where I was going to live. I ended up getting a job at a pub, and I lived above the pub, and I worked at the pub, and I was filled out applications to audition at all these schools. And so I was getting ready. I was, out on the Heath, Blackheath, London, doing my monologues at the Great Greenwich Park, and prepping and getting ready. And I remember I auditioned for a school called Rose Bruford first. And Rose Bruford has this system where they have like 40 people, and they work with you for an hour doing group exercise stuff. They show you a
Mm.
piece of art, and then you build a human statue based on that piece of art.
Yes.
And then they cut 20 people, and so then there are 20 left. So then they have you do a monologue, and they say, okay, you have one more, and they'll keep you up there, and they'll have you do every single monologue. And luckily, I knew like I had 20 monologues, and they're
Nice.
like, oh, okay, okay. And they were not word perfect like they would be now, and they weren't necessarily all crafted to the point where they should have been. I maybe should have said no, is what I'm saying, to a few of them.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I made it through the next cut. I made it down to the final like 15.
Whoa.
And then we did like some scene work kind of stuff, like cold read scene work stuff. And after that, I got cut. And they told me, they said, if you were English, you would be in, but you're American, so you probably won't be able to do the voice work. That's kind of what they said. You
Ooh,
be able to
wow.
hear and do the voice work that we'll need you to do. And they were also saying in a way that I perceived, but maybe they didn't know I perceived, was that I wasn't of the class of people who should be going to theater school because they're a very classist society, very
Right.
classist. You know,
Whoa.
and so they could see that I'm come from pretty humble beginnings, you know.
Yeah. Backpacking $1,000 and living above the pub.
Yeah, and so that was kind of one of the reasons that they didn't cast me. And then of course, it was the same story. I got through one cut at Lambda and at RADA, and so then when I came back to the United States, I I was going to have one more audition for RADA and the Old Globe, and I was
Yeah.
sitting. I had my Old Globe audition in San Francisco. They do all those
Yeah.
auditions at a couple cities
Internationally, right?
hotel, and it's all the different, so, or one whatever. So I was at this place in San Francisco, and I had an audition for the Old Globe, and it was my last big shot. Like I auditioned for Cal Arts and a bunch of other schools,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to the Old Globe, and I was way early. I was like 20 minutes early, and I didn't want them to see me waiting. Also, I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to like just sit there and get nervous for 20 minutes. So I went
Yeah.
around the corner and I sat on a chair, and this woman came out of the door, and she said, "Are you auditioning for us?" And I looked up and I saw the name of the school, and I said, "Well, no, I'm sorry, I'm waiting. I'm going around the corner in a few minutes." And she said, "Well, why don't you audition for us? We'll waive the fee, and you can use it as a warm up for your Old Globe audition." I was like, "Great idea. Yeah, I'm in." So I auditioned, and they ended up giving me a scholarship, and I ended up going there.
Wow.
That
Cool.
woman, her name is Michelle Trevan. I love you, Michelle. Thank you. That was in 1994, I think, 3 or 4.
Wow.
And that changed my whole life. That one woman who was a complete stranger saying that to me changed my whole life.
Wow. And what do you feel like you learned from that experience of having gone for all these things to then get sort of found in this kind of situation? What do you feel like that taught you then, or maybe that now you see what the lesson was in all of that? What do you feel like you learned from that?
Well, you asked the best question. So I still have my rejection letters from Harvard, Yale, the Old Globe, RADA, Rose. I have all those rejection
You
letters. I
keep
keep the
the
little file.
wow.
Yeah. And so this is a little egotistical, but it's absolutely true. So sometimes, and I also have my rejection letter from Juilliard at NYU. I have them all.
Wow.
So, sometimes I'll be in a room and I'll be like, oh, that's my buddy. I don't want to use names, but that's my buddy Baba Baba who went to Juilliard. And then I booked the role and I'm like, ha ha, I win. I win. I'm like, I didn't win because of anything but good luck, right? But you know, so what I try to teach my daughters about the rejection is that it's okay. There's another way. You just have to keep applying what you know and what you love and what you believe into what you're doing, and someone will say yes. Someone will say yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Someone will say yes, absolutely. And that's true. That's so true. Like I think the actor's journey is like one of the things that we are honestly probably very lucky to do is work on our relationship to rejection because I think it's like one of people's like biggest fears, maybe more than death, is being rejected, right? Being thrown out from society, being told no. And it's like we're lucky that we are in a profession where we get the chance to face rejection and either see it as a friend or see it as a foe and develop these kinds of deep, really appreciation for those beliefs that then get kind of validated with those real life experiences, like you were talking about, after facing all these rejections from all these schools that you thought you needed to go to. you were offered, in a sense, the opportunity, and you had no pressure to get into this school either because you were like, oh yeah, well, it's just a practice for the thing. Probably, and I'd love to know too how that practice audition was. You probably were doing some of your best work because you weren't trying to be good anymore. You're trying to get in.
I mean, we've come upon the great I don't know, divider or the great secret. It's mostly about confidence.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know, if you're feeling confident for whatever reason, whether it's I don't have. You hear so many stories. Actors. I was going to quit acting. I went in. I didn't care. You know, you hear it over and over and over again. But you know, it's kind of a fallacy because you have to care. You can't just say that and then do it. It's not.
No.
You know,
No.
there's something that I'm still learning, and I think that every actor, if they're honest, is still learning. And that's how to not be self-aware and just do the work that you need to do and be
Mm.
confident about it.
Mm.
And I there's no that's why I say you know all these systems, all these actors, you know, studio and Meryl Street Group and whoever you want to mention, they're all great. They teach you a way to work and a way to analyze text and build characters and apply it. That's all great. But it's like a religion. Nobody has the one answer, right?
Mhm.
It's because you're figuring out what it is for you that works
Mhm.
for you. And that's not going to, what works for me isn't going to work for Laurent necessarily. Some
Mhm.
of it might work, right?
Mhm.
But, you
Mhm.
know, I'm not saying people shouldn't train and shouldn't adopt those systems and go all in. I'm just saying that once you graduate, there is a bigger world where everyone you meet is not going to believe that or buy into it.
Mm.
And really, it's not necessary that they do for you to be successful.
Okay. Okay. So tell me what it was like to start working on that master's program, and what did you learn from there before graduating and, like you said, you know, go out into the real world for the first time? What was that you learned at this master's program?
Had a real life lesson. We all had a real life lesson happen. You know, we get there in what, August? By October, we had a real life lesson. We came to this school, and it was run by these two guys, both of whom were at the North Carolina School of the Arts before, which was a very good theater school that they founded.
Okay.
And within 2 months, they announced that they were leaving this school that we committed to. And we were so angry because I went because one of the guys is Malcolm Morrison, who's dead now, but he was a great, um, he was a Shakespearean teacher. He went to RADA himself. He was a really good director. He had all this voice and speech stuff, and he really understood
Yeah.
Shakespeare. And he was a really good teacher.
Yeah.
And but he also attracted talent. You know, he could get people from RADA to come and work with us. You know, it was
Oh, wow.
great.
Okay.
And we had this acting teacher, um, and he was also really great. And then but they were both leaving. So then I'm like, okay, well, should I start over? There's whatever time I spent, and if I go, I don't have a scholarship anymore, and I'm
Mm.
paying for this myself, by the way. Um,
Mhm.
so we had a decision to make. So I got on the search and screen committee, and we hired the next person, and we hired this guy from Yale, and he turned out to be a great acting teacher.
Mm.
He did some things that were, you know, back in the day that I guess a lot of male acting teachers did that today
Mm.
you're not getting away with doing that kind of stuff.
Whoops.
Right. But he was a great acting teacher, and uh, I learned a lot in that process. And he did attract. We ended up working with people from RADA, and we did a thing
Nice.
with Lisa Harrow, and we traveled to China. We did a show in China. We did a show at Cinco de
Oh, wow. Wow.
So we got to work with a lot of amazing people, and it was really cool. But that life lesson was things are going to happen. You're going to get punched in the face, and you got to
Mm,
figure out how to deal with it. And so
mm,
it taught me about loyalty. Like, what is loyalty?
mm,
What are you being loyal to? There's a time when it's okay to not be loyal, right?
mm.
If it's going to negatively affect your personhood, then you need to be loyal to yourself, right? Or
Yeah.
you're loyal to your future.
Mm,
So, in hindsight, did I make the right decision? I don't know. But that's the decision I made to stay and see the program out, and I did.
wow. Cool. So tell us what it was like to emerge into the real world. Is that when you made the choice, New York City, here I come? And tell if so, what was that process like?
So we worked very hard on a showcase, and we got into the leagues, which was like that was like Harvard and Yale and Juilliard. All the best schools had the league, and they would rent
Cool.
a floor of a hotel or whatever. But I think it was actually at NYU. They rented space from NYU,
Okay.
and we did the leagues at the MFA program there. They have a little
Okay.
theater, and I think that's where we did our audition. And so we worked very hard, and I got bids from a bunch of agents, and I booked an agent. I was cast in the Colorado Shakespeare Festival, so I did the summer Colorado Shakes, and then I came out in the fall. And again, I had the same backpack that I'd taken to England. It was filled up with whatever stuff. I didn't even have a suitcase. I just had a backpack,
Just that backpack. Wow.
and I had rented. I met someone at Colorado Shakes who knew of a person who had a sublet, and I sublet a room sight unseen at 228 Front Street in Lower Manhattan, and it was nighttime. And I get out of the cab, and it's raining, and I see 228 Front Street, right? And if you're filming this, it says 228 Front Street, and then the camera moves down, and it says Jeremy's Tavern. So
No
crazy,
way.
still there, right? So I,
Wow.
I lived there for I don't know the summer or that fall I lived there, and then I found another place to live, and I moved full circle. I was doing my last episode of Mr. Robot. What ended? Well, was it my last? No, it wasn't. It was my second to last episode of Mr. Robot, and it was a driving scene where I'm driving the car, and then I get out and I rough up this guy, and then this guy kills one of the lead characters, and then shoots me. That was the scene, and the trailer. Yeah, sorry, spoiler alert. I mean, that's
I mean,
10 years
anyone
ago.
who's listening to this hopefully knows your
Yeah.
work a tiny
And
bit, but if not, check it out.
yeah, it just came on Netflix, so maybe it's new to somebody, but it's
Yeah,
been
true,
10.
true, true.
Yeah. So um, I go to my trailer, which is located down there, and they're like, "We're gonna take you to set," and they're walking me to set, and they walked me right by 228 Front Street, and I was like,
Was your tavern
this
still
is a
there?
moment." Yes, it's still there now. It was a
I
moment. It was
love it.
like this is life giving you a little thumbs up or a little chuckle or something. Like that's how I took it.
Yes.
So anyway, I shot the scene, and but that initial stop in New York. I temped for a while, then I started working in restaurants, and then I got a really good long-term restaurant job. That was the rest of my career in New York because they let me go in and do theater and come back, and they put me on
Nice.
the management team, and like it was great. It was really good,
Nice.
and it taught me a lot about that restaurant job. Taught me a lot about um, people, different kinds of people, how to deal with people that were on a different playing field than I'd ever dealt with before. Um, it also like toughness, grit, working the stamina. It
Mm.
was crazy. It was like a second grad school that place.
Yeah, it sounds like it was another type of acting school to sense too. I find a lot of people who've worked in the service industry. That's why I'm happy I worked in the service industry too. It's a masterclass in human behavior, and oftentimes too, dealing with customers, you get to witness the reality of humanity's darker sides, and on a very microscopic level, in both the kitchen, the staff, the people coming in, everyone has a character, and it's heightened your job is to become almost like a chameleon when you're a waiter or in management or a bartender or a busboy. You become another person for every other person. And I think an actor, the more you learn the craft, the more you learn that character isn't like just this one thing you are, but rather it's how you respond to people. It's in the moment. uh oh, I like that person. Okay, my character is like positive and smiley and jokestery, but the boss is here, so I'm super professional. I keep it chill, very elegant in my manner. Like, that's, I think, super cool that you could say that it was a second grad school, because I absolutely believe like a job that's outside of acting, especially in the service industry, is a great opportunity to learn. So like, yeah, for anybody out there who's listening or watching, if you can't afford to go to class or take workshops or pay for these casting director things or whatever, like, go get a job, go get a normal job and treat it like your craft, because there is something to learn from each and every one of these things. And, I've known, people who were doctors who end up playing doctors, or, there's always something to learn and something to bring to then your acting in such a cool way. So I love that you mentioned that. So tell me, when you made that shift into New York, was this around the same time that you then met your wife and started to have kids? So when did this start to emerge? Because this is a huge part of who you are, too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it is. So I was doing, I was playing a musketeer in Cyrano de Bergerac, a version that had the musketeers, the three musketeers in Cyrano de
Nice.
Bergerac
I love it.
at the Shakespeare Theater in DC. And my agent called and said, "Hey, can you make an audition tomorrow morning in New York?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "The job starts like a week after your current gig ends." And I had a lot. It was like a 3 month gig down there.
Oh, nice.
So I did the show. I went to whatever East Street in DC, and I waited for they called it the Chinatown bus. I got on the Chinatown bus up to New York, which let you
Nice.
out not in Chinatown, but at 34th Street.
Okay.
And 34th Street was like, I don't know, 6 blocks from this audition. But
Whoa.
we got there at like 6 in the morning.
Yes, there's an
I found
overnight
it.
bus. Love
Yeah, it's
it.
an overnight bus. So I tried
Be
to
a
sleep a little
hustler.
bit on the bus, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Get in, I find a diner. I had a little, whatever it was, I had
Yeah.
a oatmeal probably and some coffee.
Yes.
And then I walked around. I worked on the audition. I think I had a membership at the New York Sports Club, so I went in and I took a shower or whatever.
Nice.
And I went to the audition.
Damn.
I was exhausted. I went to the audition and it was to play Vronsky in Anna Karenina at the Clarence
Wow.
Brown in Tennessee, which is a great theater. It's a
Nice.
really fun place to do the theater. So I got back on the bus because I had to get like the noon bus to be there for showtime safely by six.
Damn. Oh my
My
gosh. Yes,
I
right.
took the bus back, and as I'm riding the bus back, I get a phone call. Hey, you booked that gig. Fantastic. So
No
I
way.
I got that part, and flash forward, I get a flight to Tennessee, flight to Knoxville. As on the way in, the company manager picked me up and she said, "Hey, you're gonna love your stage manager. She's incredible." So I got to the first rehearsal, and I got there early because I'm always like I like being I don't like being even on time or even 5 minutes early. I
Yes.
like to be way early. So I got, and it's
Nice.
annoying to everyone who knows me. So I got to the theater, and we were rehearsing in the theater, but it was a table read, and there are these card tables set up, or this 6 foot rack set up with pencils perfectly sharpened in a perfect line. There were highlighters there for you could just reach and get a highlighter. They're enough for everybody in the cast. And
Nice.
there's a woman sitting on a yoga ball at the end of the table. So we go through the rehearsal, read the play, whatever. We do the second paperwork, all that stuff. And then, we go through the week. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at the end of the rehearsal. This woman says, "Mr. Holm, by the way, I just want to let you know, tomorrow there's no rehearsal because it's game day." I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, the Tennessee Volunteers have a football game tomorrow, so there's no rehearsal." I'm like, "What? We have like 10 days to get this play ready. What are you talking about?" She said, "You'll understand tomorrow." And I said, "Well, do you want to go to the game?" and she went to the game. And now we watch every single game together.
Oh,
We ended up going to like 2 or 3 games. We said we're not going to date, and then we got back to New York
yes.
City.
Keep
We
it
dated.
professional.
Yeah, and so we've been married now for 19 years. We were married for 3 years, and we had kids. And then we left. We lived in Brooklyn. Then we moved to Jersey, and then we left Jersey and moved to Vermont about 10 years ago now.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing. So
yeah.
cool.
And
So
she
cool.
was far better at her job than I ever was. Like she worked at Radio City, and she used to stage manage plays for our buddy John Patrick Shanley,
Mm,
and she was working at a very high level. She's much better at stage managing than I am at acting for sure. But she
mm.
doesn't do it anymore now. She runs a chocolate shop. So
Love it. Shout out the chocolate shop so that anybody in Vermont can go and check it out. What's it called?
you can go online and get it anywhere. It's
Oh,
dailychocolatevt.com, and it's great handmade chocolate. She ships all over the country, and you want to get someone a really special treat. It's amazing.
Daily Chocolate VT.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love that. That's so cool. So tell me maybe then what, because I find relationships can be quite important in teaching an actor again about life and the craft. What would you say your relationship has taught you the most about acting or about life? I'm only deep questions here, man. I'm not your normal podcast.
Well, love, right? Love is more than that Hallmark card teenage description of it. It's more than a sonnet or a poem can describe. It's um, deeper than any. It's more expansive. It's more practical. It's a decision that you have to keep making. It's a choice, right? It's a daily choice, and I think it's a thousand little things, that you know, especially if you have kids, there's a lot to do, and it's a lot to accomplish to make sure everybody has everything they need and that there's kindness in the home. Um, and I don't think you could understand the magnitude of that without being married and having kids and being faced with the day to day challenges and rigors of that.
Mm,
I don't know if I
mhm.
said anything, but
Absolutely, you said a lot of things, bro. You're gonna love the answers you just said. I'm curious too. Then, what did you learn about life or about acting by becoming a father?
well, my wife gave birth to our older daughter in our apartment in Brooklyn on purpose in
Nice.
um, a water birth,
Hmm.
and to our other daughter Ellis in New Jersey in our living room in a pool.
Beautiful.
Both of which I inflated and made sure the water was the right temperature.
Nice.
Um, you
Good
cannot
habit.
like such a breathtaking moment when your children are born. It's there's an irrevocable feeling of attachment and love and a size to it that is it's like a flood.
Hmm.
A beautiful flood is moving through the center of your soul that you can't describe.
Mm.
I think the reason anybody ultimately does anything is because of that force, whatever that force is. When I said to one of my professors, who I still talk to all the time, I said, after Saban was born, I said, I know why wars are fought now. Because you would do anything for your child. You would do anything for your child. You really would. And people told me, after you have kids, you'll get lucky in the business. I was like, yeah, whatever. But that happened for sure. That happened to me. You
Mm.
know, um, I think Ellis was born, and right after that, I booked the House of Cards. Um, you know, so I don't know. I think there's a something spiritual happens that gives you a power to a confidence, right?
Hmm.
Um, that that happens when you have kids that causes that luck to maybe happen a little bit. I think they're related.
Mm. In what way? What do you think?
When you have a child, you see the importance of what that is, and you compare it to things that you thought were important before, and now, like those other things really don't matter. And so you really can walk into an audition and be like, I have a baby at home.
Yeah.
This doesn't really matter. What
This
matters is
this this character on a TV show isn't as important as going back and seeing my daughter or seeing my wife. Beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful because I think, for people who don't necessarily have kids or want to have kids, I think the experience of seeing people having kids or becoming parents is a beautiful realization that the things we worry about have no reason to actually worry about. You know what I mean? Like the little things, like the stressful things, like the things that we think are important are really not that important. And that it comes down to that like beautiful sensation of flooding of love in your heart that we can experience in multiple different ways. But I think, like you said, parenthood and love is like a great reminder of. And I just love that it then overflowed and created this wave of abundance for you with, Mr. Robot and with House of Cards and with, then you've been in so many really cool indie horror films. And I'd love to just talk about that too, because there's just such a wholesomeness and a love and like a really like you strike me as the person that like so friendly, so kind, so nice, and I've always had that impression from you. But it's so funny because your roles on screen, like you said, are either this deep sort of darkness, sometimes disguised, sometimes overt. So I'm curious as to why do you believe that those roles ended up finding you? And what do you learn from the roles that you've ended up, playing, especially, the ones that we know you for, whether it be House of Cards, Mr. Robot, or The Ranger, these kinds of iconic villains, but yet, or even Redux, which we will talk about briefly, I hope, because your movie is coming out. Tell me about what did you learn about being these people killed or killing, or both sometimes, and what you learned from that experience.
can I backtrack just real quick?
Yes, please.
I want to say something about. I think it's also important for those of us who do have children
Yes.
to when we're relating to other people to remember that they have the things in their lives that are just as important to them as our children are to us.
I love
People that
that.
have dogs, that have lived with a dog who's a family member. That dog is a family member, a
100%.
cat, whatever pet it is. Or it can be, a friendship they have or a hobby that, whatever it is. It's
Yes.
important for us to remember that's just for us. Other people have their version of that. And
Yes.
um, I just wanted to say that.
I
Um,
thank you for that. That's
yeah.
very nice. Yeah.
But to then answer your again very deep and very. Can you ask the question again because it.
Yeah. What did you learn about like the roles you ended up playing where you're playing these villains that are killed, killing, or both?
Okay, so you also asked why I ended up doing those roles,
Yes,
and
that too.
so part of it is, and my first agent told me this. She said, "Look, you're going to get jobs and stuff, but you're not going to get cast as the person you're perceived as until you're in your 40s, which was
Mm,
at that time 10 years hence."
yeah.
And That relates to the way I look. Like my acting teacher, my acting mentor used to say, "Why don't you smile?" And I'm like, "I'm smiling right now. This is a huge smile for me." I remember I went to an audition once. It was a print ad audition. It was
Oh my
some
god.
magazine for like cologne or something, and it was just a
Okay.
print back when there were print ads. And I
Yes.
was with this photographer, and he was like, "Why don't you smile?" And I'm like, "This is me. I'm smiling." He's like, "No, no, a lot of teeth." And I'm like, and it felt so fake. He took one picture. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Stop, stop." I'm like, "This isn't for
Yeah.
me. I'm sorry." And I just
Yes.
left. I'm like, "I
Yeah.
don't want to do this. I
Yes.
can't do it." So it comes down to it's the sound of my voice. It's the look on my face. Like I don't look like a friendly next door neighbor guy. I just don't look like that. No, I don't. It's okay. I don't
Uh-huh.
need to.
Uh-huh.
You know.
Yes.
Also, I think that people there is an energy that I acknowledge that is pretty serious and maybe seems dangerous. Like every one of my friends, is like, man, when I first met you, and I think it's because I take things seriously, and I
Mm.
think about them. And when I'm thinking about something, I'm not thinking of a way to make it funny. I'm trying to understand it.
Mm.
Other people when they encounter something new, maybe they approach it differently. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't really know the answer to that question, but I suspect it's just the way I look and the way I think.
Interesting. And I mean, I'd be curious to maybe just reflect something that might be a possibility is I think sometimes there's like parts of our lives that as actors we want to explore from the safety of make believe. You know what I mean? And I think that as someone who expresses care and love and attention and you know you take care of bees, you take care of your family, you take care of your wife, you take care of
But first, I
yourself.
thought you were talking about yourself.
No, I'm talking about you, man.
You really do, Laurent.
Yeah, well, I do absolutely. No, but for real, I find maybe potentially like that, the roles you end up getting to a certain degree allow you to explore and potentially empathize because I heard you talk about it when I saw the screening of Redux at Fantasia of like you don't judge your characters even if they are a villain, quote unquote. And I think there's a power to that, and I think it inspires me as someone who also sometimes like ends up getting cast as quote unquote villains because I think our role sometimes as actors is to just bring in more of that flood of love into the human soul. And I think sometimes it is about portraying the scarier parts of humanity so that we can look at it and be confronted with, oh my God, I actually kind of like this person, or, I don't like this person, but I can understand their humanity. And that scares me in a good way. Cause now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, should I like this person? Should I not like this person? I'm curious as to maybe what you feel you've learned by playing those roles in that sense. That's kind of what I'm asking too.
Well, I think it's about POV, right?
Hmm.
You know, Adolf Hitler, arguably one of the most despicable figures in human history,
Hmm.
are um, didn't see himself as a villain. He saw himself as a great leader, doing the right thing, the very difficult, courageous thing
Yes.
for his countrymen.
Hmm.
That's what he thought,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, he sat in jail writing a book about it. He didn't sit in jail, you know,
Yeah.
doing something else. He sat in jail concentrating on what he wanted and how he was going to do it. He thought he was working hard. He thought he had great concentration. He thought he had great focus. He
Hmm.
always thought he was the smartest person in the room, without a doubt. And so if you're playing, a guy like that, someone who's willing to kill and murder people, you can't approach it from the point of view that they're a defective. They have a defective personality.
Mhm.
Maybe externally you can when you're doing your homework on traits, habits, mannerisms,
Right.
psychological facts about people like that. You know,
Right.
what are their eating habits? You know, are they clean people? Are they dirty people? You know, like
Mhm.
stuff like that. Maybe not so much, but once you get inside the script and you're learning what the lines mean and why you say each word that you say, at that moment, then you believe that they're just doing their best that day.
Mhm.
They're doing the most interesting thing, the most fun thing, the smartest thing that they in that moment can be doing. And it may be a desperate thing, but still they're making the best choice they can make.
Mm. I love that. I love that. That's so true. It's so true. I love that you speak of not only empathy but objectivity to a certain sense too, of like being able to have empathy for your character but also objectively sort of see why they might have acted that way without judgment, good or bad, like you said. And I think it is like, I think in this day and age where everyone's like have a stance on some issues or everything, right? We're encouraged to get angry about something or hate someone. I think it's really cool as an actor that we're lucky to be in a profession that requires you to have empathy for all. And I think it's a good call to others too, in a certain sense, and why it's inspiring to be in that kind of a sphere of art, because the world needs a lot more empathy, and or at least it's in our nature. It's
It
in our
is,
nature. And I
we
think
survive better when we work together.
100% we thrive. We go beyond survival. We thrive, we live, we love. And just the conversation we're having today is like, they think like a testament to that, like that we can connect so deeply by just getting to know each other, who we really are, and to see that, like you said early on, like things that aren't meant for you aren't meant for you. There is no right path. There's just what happens. And I'm just so grateful that our paths have crossed, because I have a feeling there's a reason why. And I think a lot of the little moments we've had together are already reason enough. This conversation is a reason enough. And I'm just grateful that, having this chat, I'm getting to know you better. And hopefully the world will get to know you better too, because if your 40s brought you this abundance of how people see you and perceive you from the outside, I cannot wait for the future of your artistic career to unfold, because there's so much more to discover about who you are: the beekeeper, the father, the child dancing in his mother's clothes in
Yeah.
the windows made of mirrors. I can't wait to discover more about you, my friend. And I'm so glad you came onto this podcast for that. I will. Hmm.
I didn't follow through with it. I did it for a
Wow.
while. I didn't follow through with it. And I really wish I had, because a lot of those people are dead now, and they all had
Hmm.
something really great to teach me,
Yes.
teach actors, or just interesting stories. Um, and so you're going to do this, right? And you're going to keep
Yes.
meeting interesting people. And someday you're going to have this huge library
Yes.
of conversations that you can then synthesize into another work of art. And it's going to be really cool. So I hope you just keep doing it.
Thanks,
You
man.
know, yeah, it's really cool.
I will, man. I already have so many that I'm ready to release into the world. So I'm ready to release this one too. And if you're listening, listener, or watching viewer, thank you for being a part of this. Please, Jeremy, let them know where they can follow you and also where they can see your upcoming film. Hopefully, this releases before it's released so that people can run to the theaters to see this beautiful, gorgeous human being play what some might seem is one of the most scary, despicable parts of human beings, but worth being seen and felt so that we can have. Again, Redux, without giving anything away, is an incredible, thrilling adventure that tests, like we were talking about, the limits of what we will do for the ones we love. And
Mm.
it also confronts us with the choices that we make, the impact that they have, and what's actually in front of you might be exactly what you have been wanting your whole life. And there's a huge love lesson that I found from that too, of watching that film, and why I came to you and to the McManus brothers and to the lead who please remind me her name. What's her name again?
Michaela McManus.
Michaela
They're,
McManus. So
they're, it's their sister. Can you
exactly.
imagine
So
that in one family? It's crazy.
it's an
Yeah.
incredible film. So please let them know where they can see this film and where they can follow your journey as it
So,
unfolds.
so Redux comes out February 20th, and it's being released nationally in theaters. We don't have the list yet of what theaters,
Yes, right.
and then I'm assuming shortly thereafter it'll be streaming in various places. But if you can see it in a theater, that's the way to see it. It's
Yes.
so great. I've seen it, I think, 4 times on the big screen. South by Southwest is where we had a world premiere. Great screening. Audiences loved it there. And then, of course, I saw it up at Fantasia Festival, which is one of my favorite festivals in the world. And so you can catch me on Jeremy S. Holm on Instagram, and on my website is jeremyholm.com. And I really am grateful, Laurent, to have this. What a cool way to start the weekend with this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more time, let's shout out your wife's chocolate business.
DailyChocolateVT.com, and she ships all over the United States, and it's handmade chocolate. She's a professional chocolatier, and there's one item there that's made with honey from my honeybees, and it's hokey pokey. It's a honey sponge dipped in dark chocolate covered with bee pollen, and it's just incredible. Yeah,
That sounds delicious. I have to
so
come
good.
down to Vermont to try this. This sounds amazing. I am
2 hours
so,
away from you.
huh?
I'm 2 hours away from you.
I know. I'm coming, man.
Okay.
Get ready. I'm gonna show up with my backpack and hopefully $1,000 or more. But bro, thank you so much for this conversation. This has been incredible. I really appreciate your time. And like I usually do, I always end with and scene. And that is the end of the podcast. Oh no, wait, actually I forgot to say something. I forgot to say, if you have any questions, please reach out to Jeremy. He gave you his Instagram handle. And if you have any questions, please plop them down in the comments and we will do our absolute best to answer your questions, but also create a conversation. Don't be shy. I think
Yeah.
if you're listening to a podcast and this person is putting their story out there, they're part of the wonderful human souls that I've met who are always generous and always want to help other people up because they've had their moments, like you said, where someone believed in you and gave you a little leg up. We all rise together. Am I right, Jeremy? Am I right? So I'm going to say cut this time and cut. There we go. And it's
Got
over.
and seen, and it's a print.
There we go. Oh my god. Okay, how do I end this for real? End session for all? Maybe. I think it's that way
Your
now. I'll
questions
stop
are
this.